What's up, y'all? It's your girl, DaVida Chanel, and on this episode of All Up In It, we are getting into one thing forever on Netflix. That's right,
Forever, forever, ever, forever, ever.
yes, baby. I mentioned in the last podcast episode that I had started this show and how I was loving it, but now that I am done, it's time to get all up in it. If you haven't watched the show yet, first of all, what are you doing? And second, please note there will be spoilers, so proceed with caution. It's just so much to unpack, so without further ado, let's get all up in it. Simply put, this show hits, period. It is based on the book Forever by Judy Blume. First read that Mara Brock Akil was adapting the book for Netflix in an article on Deadline back in November of 2022. So, of course, I immediately ordered the book. I have always been a Judy Blume fan. In fact, I was shocked I had not heard of or read this book, but upon doing some research, I found out that the book had been banned in schools and libraries in the 70s due to the sexual content. And this, of course, made me want to read it more, especially considering that Judy Blume books taught me so much about sex and sexuality as a young youth. So I got the book, read it. It was good. It focused on a high school girl that meets this dude at a New Year's Eve party, and it follows their relationship, I guess, up until the summer before they go to college. So, in this 2022 article announcing that Mara Brock Akil was doing this show, she said, and I quote, "I'm honored to reimagine one of my favorite books forever. I am thrilled to have the opportunity of a lifetime to partner with a childhood icon and bring this story to my Netflix home where the idea of your first love being with you forever is shared with the world through the lens of Black love." Baby, did she meet her intention? Absolutely, yes, she did. You see, first of all, coming from the book, I expected this Black love lens she mentioned to be all about this teen relationship and just the focus of all of the things teen. But the show went so much deeper. The show, we entered through the lens of high school junior Justin. You could tell from the jump that Justin was different. He goes to this New Year's Eve party with his friend, who, by the way, was played by young high school Randall from This Is Us. At this party, he runs into an old friend, this girl he went to elementary school with. Her name was Keisha. They spark up conversation, and you could see the spark ignite between them. And then the show follows their relationship from then at this New Year's Eve party through the summer before they both head off to college, or as it played out, whatever life post high school had in store for them. Simple, right? No. Nothing about this show was simple, which reminded me just how complex navigating high school and high school love was. That was just a shit show. So, on a personal share, this show touched me so much because I could so relate to both teens. High school was an interesting time for me. It's funny that this show comes up now and it unleashes all these emotions because I'm working on a memoir about that time in my life, that high school, that 90 to 94. So I saw so many parallel stories, but I will admit times have changed quite a bit. All right, for one, I do recall having a whole different life depending on where I showed up. And in the show, Keisha is an example of this. While she was overall a good person, a stellar student, a great athlete, she was also involved in a sex scandal. Now, the tape thing, that wasn't a thing back in the early 90s at my school that I was aware of. I don't know if people was doing it, but I had never heard of it. And I thought I was pretty much up on the gossip, but I never heard about that stuff in high school. I heard about a girl on a potential sex tape during like my junior or senior year of college, and that was still such a heavy rumor. No one could ever produce the tape. But I digress. Keisha on Forever on Netflix was living dual lives. She was presenting this image that her mother wanted, or rather what she thought her mother would want, which brings me to another point on Keisha and her mother's relationship. From experience, when you excel in school, parents who don't come from like a higher education background, they think because you're doing well at school, it means you're overall okay. These type of parents, they work hard. And in my case, my mom kept two or three jobs during like my high school years. I didn't want to stress her any more than necessary because I could already tell she was stressed. So like Keisha, I kept all my shit to myself. I didn't tell my family about how I didn't get along with a lot of people, how I didn't have that many friends, how I was sneaking around and all kind of silly shit, how I was calling 1-900 numbers. Basically, how I was just so unsure of what my next step in life would be, and I didn't know what I really wanted. I was just a confused kid. But that type of confusion would have made her nervous, and I didn't want to disappoint my mom or my family by being anything other than how they saw me or what they wanted me to be. And like Keisha, a self imposed scandal threatened to ruin everything. Now, again, I didn't know nothing about a sex tape. So let me tell you about my country town scandal. You see, like in the 10th grade, I got this super crazy crush on this upperclassman boy. I don't even know how I knew who he was because, anyway, his name was DeAndre. It was so 90s, right? DeAndre. His look matched his name. He had this curly hair. He was light skinned. He was tall. He dressed so chic. I remember he had like round glasses, like, ooh. And I don't know. I don't know. I wonder if I saw a picture of this boy today, would it be the same? But back then, it was like, oh my God, he's like, I'll be sure looking Negro. Anyway, I knew very little about this boy, but I did know that I was attracted to him because I liked his style. He had swag and the potential of dating a guy like this, what it could do for my social status. I just thought it was a win-win. But there was a big problem. I was not allowed to date. Honestly, I wasn't allowed to do anything really. I lived with my grandma and she was very, very strict. I had very little phone time. It was supposed to just be for homework. And I for sure could not go anywhere. So dating was a no. But I talked to my friends. I watched a lot of TV. I read a lot of books. So I came up with this plan to see this boy anyway. It was so perfect. I figured, we had set it up. He was going to come by the neighbor's house. Then he was going to walk over to my house. And then we were going to have a time. It was going to be great. But like most schemes enacted by high school kids back in the day, I missed a step. I didn't realize that even though I felt like because it was a Friday, it would be a work day. So the people around me would be at work or minding their own fucking business instead of worried about me. However, I was wrong. On this fateful summer Friday, my neighbor who lived across the street was home. I didn't know. But she was sitting in her window like Angela on Real Housewives of Atlanta. She was sitting in the window and she saw everything. She saw the boy come over, and I guess she waited a few minutes. Now, in those few minutes that it took for her to decide to call me, in those few minutes, I decided, like, yes, I'm all in. This cute boy is in my house. I don't know what to do, but I'm going to figure it out because today is the day. It was not the day. It was, in fact, the worst day of at that point in my life. It became the worst day because the neighbor called and was like, hey, I see what you're doing. You know you're not supposed to have boys in that house. You better tell him to leave. And if he doesn't leave in 5 minutes, I'm going to call your grandma. But basically, if he leaves, I won't say anything. So I was like, no problem. He leaves. Everything is done. I think I'm like, oh my God, I'm so grateful the neighbor's not going to tell. Y'all already know. She had already told. She had called my mama, my grandma, my auntie, my uncle. She had called everybody. And long story short, my family was crazy. So it got very ugly. This day turned terrible. When they got off from work, they went to this boy's house as like a posse with my aunt, my grandma's brother, my grandma. No, my grandma didn't go. She stayed at home with me because she had to, tell me about the errors of my ways. But my uncle, my mom's brother, like these people packed into a car and drove to this boy's house. It was terrible. It was embarrassing. I was so ashamed, all the emotions. Eventually, this died down. I don't know still like who all knew, or I don't know. It just was so ugly. It seemed so big to me. But eventually, it all went away. And I upped my game and I realized that, I had to be better at keeping my own personal secrets because clearly, when my secrets got out, shit was bad. And let's be clear, what this situation did not do was make me not like this boy. It made me want to, of course, see him more, because that's what happens when you try to isolate kids from this thing they think they want. So, of course, I figured out a way to eventually see him, and, things happen. But I stayed on the principal's list and honor roll, so my family didn't think anything was wrong. Because again, if you did good in school, that meant you were okay overall. I was not okay. Junior year rolled around. I got a real boyfriend. He was this new transfer student who didn't know my past, so we had this like fresh start. But I was still stuck in those secret traumas, so it was always a bit of a dual life struggle. Like Justin, this new boyfriend, this kid was a good guy. But unfortunately, at the time, I didn't really know what to do with that. So I just still had like entanglements with bad dudes, and things fizzled as I grew older. And college changed everything. Which brings me to the parents on Forever. These parents all work so hard so their kids could have this amazing opportunity to go to school. And college seems to hold some magical tools that will make Keisha and Justin's lives better. So of course their parents wanted that. This makes me feel away. I too was constantly told how I was going to college. It was not a discussion. And don't get me wrong, while college was amazing and I had such a time and I learned so much, I do wish that parents put more of an emphasis on other areas and just the sole focus on collegiate education. There are so many ways that young people can excel, but I believe that especially in the Black community, our focus is so limiting. I think everyone deserves the option of going, but I just wish we were more encouraging of other people finding out, what to be the key for them and what should be their path. But since we're here, let's discuss Justin's parents. Oh my God, they are the poster children for Black love, especially in these current times, for sure. This couple was it. Dawn and Eric Edwards were ideal. Such a team. I mean, she was this like helicopter mom, a bit way too involved, but he was like the perfect version of laid back type of involved. He was very aware of what was going on, but he was trying to let Justin, like grow into the man he was supposed to be. The mom taught lessons and was very clear in her vision for her son, but the dad's approach was more to allow their son to like be in situations and figure out to do the best thing from there. And when there was a conflict, the dad was able to smooth things over and offer alternatives to, the mom's emotion fueled reactions. My favorite thing the dad did was when Justin tried to talk shit to him about his mom, baby, he stopped that real quick. The dad told Justin, like, look, your mom is the best thing that ever happened to me. Boom, period. I love that show of solidarity. It's so necessary for a husband and a wife to be like on one page, and then they can address their children. I hate that shit where like one parent be like dissing the other parent to the child. Like, what kind of shit is this? How y'all have a united front? But the parents on this show, that couple, they kept the united front, and I just loved it. There's just so much juicy goodness in this show. There were so many times I swore I knew what would happen next. Like when Dawn found out about Keisha's tape, I just knew she was going to go off and become the founding member of the Keisha is a Hoe Club. But instead, she forced her son and Keisha to do the right thing and tell Keisha's mom what was happening. It was a bit overstepping, and I ain't gonna lie, I thought it was a little bit messy, but had she not, Keisha's mom, Shelly, would still be in the dark. Oh, I almost forgot Keisha's dad. So, if it's one TV combination I appreciate, it's the Akils and Will Catlett. Baby, they go together so good. I didn't watch that much of Black Lightning, but when I did, Catlett's character was definitely a standout. But I most appreciated him in Mara Brock Akil's show Love Is for On. Oh, baby, he was acting down on that show. And his role in Forever as Keisha's dad, Quincy, yes, baby, he clocked in. This man was so effortless at the craft, and he embodies every bit of the character the Akil's created, or Mara Brock Akil created. I loved his wisdom and his straight talk with his daughter. See, basically, he told Keisha that while Justin was a real nice guy, Justin was lost, and that lost dudes get you pregnant. And I'm an example. That's some straight talk. And he didn't say it exactly like that, but that was the point. That was the point of the story was. And I was so here for that. The way these twos were. Okay, let's talk about this. I don't know about y'all, but that little sex I was having in high school, it wasn't like this. These two, they were going at it. They were doing the most. And it was very adult, in my opinion. I definitely didn't know all that stuff back in the day. But times change and people change. And maybe I was just country and they are some LA kids. But anyway, when Keisha's dad told her that basically lost dudes could get you pregnant, and I know from experience, I felt like he was so fucking real. I was very here for that because that's the kind of straight talk a girl like Keisha needed to hear. And I do know that Justin's dad has shown him how to use a condom, but just a couple days later, or maybe it was months, I don't know because of the timing of the show, but not that far after that, Justin all in the pool talking about he could pull out. And I'm telling you, had Keisha's dad not put that on her mind, I'm sure she would have been like, well, okay. I mean, this is the girl that let the dude tape her and then text him the tape. So I do realize that as smart as Keisha was, she was a little bit naive. So I needed her dad. And I'm so happy Quincy told her the time because I think that saved them. Because, baby, the way they were going at it, we would have definitely had forever because they were going to be bonded forever over this child they have to take care of because they was fucking around doing it in the fancy pool. Anyway, I will say this. Keisha's cousins and sometimes even Keisha's mom, Shelly, y'all, they were trifling, especially when it came to Keisha's old boo, the sex tape boy, Christian. Now, Christian and Keisha had been together for so long. I get that her family, and especially her cousins, had a vested interest in their lives together, especially because he was going to go to the NBA. People be thinking they going to go to the NBA, Lord. That's a whole thing. I'm not blaming them. I'm not trying to shame them because I definitely know people in that position where, perhaps they felt that was the best option for Keisha because they thought that was the only option for them. I just did not like or appreciate how not one of these people who were women who had dealt with men who were a little bit older than her, well, her cousins were a little bit older than her, and her mother who had experienced the whole life. I don't understand how not one of them clocked how uncomfortable Keisha got when somebody brought up Christian's name or anything had to do with Christian. And when those flowers came, Mama Shelly, you had to be more on it because ain't no way a little girl in high school was going to get all these flowers and not be happy unless this Negro had done something bad to her. And they start this conversation, but then the mom is just so easily distracted. Why? Because she's too busy. She got work on her mind, and that is how it goes sometimes. That's definitely how it went for me. So yeah, forever it had me. Okay, wait. Forever has me. This has sparked so many thoughts and ideas. And mostly it gave me some time to check back in with, 16, 17-year-old DaVida. And that has been the most valuable time. Checking in with our past selves. Oh yeah, it can offer so much insight into our current situation. Baby, when I tell you the insights are inciting. So yeah. Forever on Netflix. Oh, you did your thing, and I am so anticipating season 2. We know that in the last episode in the finale, Justin mentions to Keisha that he took a gap year and that he may enroll in school in 2020 if the music thing hasn't happened. Now, in real life, we all know what happens in 2020. And I wonder how that will affect a kid like Justin, who is socially just different. Or how will this affect Keisha? Like, how will it shut down? And we know that track is a spring sport. And we also know what happened in spring 2020. So, yeah, I am very excited to see how it all plays out or if the pandemic will be a part of it at all. Like, will it skip forward? I don't know, but I do know, even though I feel it's just puppy love, it's the beginning of their lives, I just think, y'all, I'm over here rooting for Justin and Keisha's happily ever after. Together forever and ever and ever.
Forever, ever, forever, ever, forever, ever.
So thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of All Up in It. And this is your girl, DaVida Chanel. See you next time.